All right, and we have a projection, John. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the Commonwealth of Virginia. Commonwealth of Virginia, with its 13 electoral votes, will go to the Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris. What does that mean for the electoral math? Let's take a look. With 270 electoral votes needed to win, Donald Trump is only 40 behind that with 230. Kamala Harris has 182 electoral votes. Let's bring you a key race alert. Where are we with all the states that we have not projected yet? Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 213,000 vote lead over her with 84% of the estimated vote in from Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Donald Trump up there, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 107,294 vote lead over Harris, but there's still about 55% of the vote that has not been counted in Michigan. A lot of votes to count in Michigan. Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51% of the vote, Kamala Harris 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 92,000 vote lead over Harris. That's with more than three-quarters of the votes counted in Wisconsin, 77% of the vote. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump up 50.7% to Harris's 48.4%. Donald Trump with a 118,838 vote lead over Harris, with 93% of the estimated vote in. In battleground Arizona, Donald Trump up 49.8% to Harris's 49.3%. Donald Trump with a 9,600-plus vote lead. That's with slightly more than half of the vote counted in Arizona, 52%. In Nevada, Donald Trump up 73% to Harris's 26.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with an almost 11,000 vote lead. But that is, again, with only 2% of the estimated vote in Nevada counted. Still a lot of votes to count in Nevada. John?
So, Jake, let's look at right now. You're looking at the big map, and you're seeing all that red. Yes, Virginia, we just projected for the vice president. That one's blue. I'll take a closer look in a minute at that one. But you're looking at the blue wall states. Essentially, Harris's only path is to come back in these three states right there. I can give you a conceivable possibility where she only has to come back in two of them, but she has to come back in all three of them to have a reasonable path to 270 electoral votes. And it's a problem at the moment, 168,000 votes. I'm told more votes just recently came in Philadelphia, and indeed they did. So now you're up to 76% estimate. These can change a little bit as more votes come in. But you see that, the vice president opening a healthy lead in Philadelphia, which is a building block of a Democratic win in Pennsylvania. The question is it enough? I just showed you Trump was leading. So 78%, 477,000 votes. If you go back 4 years ago, it's 81%, and it's 603,000 votes. Remember that, 81 and 603. 78 and 477. Can she move both numbers up when we get the final quarter of the vote? That's the challenge, because you need that math, forgive me, to overcome that. 168,000 votes in a state that was decided by 80,000 votes 4 years ago and 40,000 votes 4 years before that. That is a big lead in a tight state like Pennsylvania with 85% of the votes. So you're saying, is it just Philadelphia and the suburbs where there are outstanding votes? Again, if you're joining us late, the larger the circle, the more votes that are still outstanding to be counted, the color, the way the candidate, who's winning in that area at the moment. And so you still do right here, Philadelphia, Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County. There's still some math to be done there. A little bit out there in Allegheny County, where we talked to Brian Todd early in the night. A little bit up in Erie County, which is a swing county. Tends to be very close, though. So let's come back and look at this as we come through it. Number one, there are bellwether counties in Pennsylvania. Northampton is one of them, and Trump is winning with 52% of the vote right now. This county usually picks the winner in the state. As I say that, I'll say its twin is Erie, way over here. It's not twin geographically. It's twin in that they voted twice for Obama, then for Trump, then for Biden. Erie and Northampton, 2 of the 25 counties that did that. At the moment, the vice president is leading in Erie County. In the last campaign, it was Vigo County, Indiana. Their streak of picking the winner went off the board. We'll see if the two swing counties in Pennsylvania split as this election goes through. But if you're looking at this map right now, 85% of the vote, it's this. That's big. If you're looking at 50,000, 60,000, it's easier to do the math. You're looking at 168,000, the math gets hard. Is it impossible? No. But the question is, when you start coming in here, Chester County's at 81%. Large suburban counties where if you get 20 or 30% of the votes still out, you can do some big math. Montgomery County at 68%. As you can see, this is a much more populous county, so you're waiting for the 30% to come in there. The vice president would have to win it gangbusters, probably higher than the percentage she's getting so far. I just want to check it against President Biden. She's a little below President Biden, which seems pretty consistent when you go through some of these areas across these states. Bucks County is this one here. Yes, I'm in the right place. That's Montgomery. Oh, Bucks has turned red. That's why I couldn't find it, because Bucks has turned red. Only 55% of the vote in, but if this is red at the end of the night, Donald Trump's going to win the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the more blue-collar, the more competitive of the three-collar counties. It's Bucks, Delaware, and Montgomery. Used to be, this was solidly Democratic, and the others were Republican. The education divide has flipped that one. Montgomery and Delaware are reliably blue, but look at this. Donald Trump, only 55% of the vote in, but look at that, 50 to 49. If you do it there, you go back in time, 51, 48, 47. So Trump was competitive here. It was a 4-point race, a little more than that 4 years ago. But again, in a close battleground state, you want to move the margins, you flip a county. So let's see if that one holds as we go. If you're in the Harris campaign, that particularly makes you nervous. And then you come out here, and again, I just want to pick them randomly. This is where Trump just runs it up. Right? So you're saying, can she come back in the Philadelphia suburbs and in Philadelphia? Mathematically, you can make the case. Common sense-wise, you start after a while to think, you know, he's getting 75% here, he's getting 78% here. There's a little bit of vote out there, not much, not hardly anything left there, not much left there. So his vote is mostly in. Trump's vote is mostly in when you look at the map. But the question is there really enough there? And let's see where they are here. 94% in Allegheny County. So again, you're getting 59 to 39, 20-point gap. 20-point gap. So, yeah, but it's got to be a lot of votes to come in, and they say they're at 94%. So it's not impossible. I would say we're starting to lean into the improbable. And let's go over into Michigan. This is a state where the vice president was leading early on. Then Donald Trump took the lead. He takes the lead sometimes in these states when all these rural counties fill in. Look at them all, right? And again, you just find him, and he's at 67% here, and he's at 65% here, and he's at 66% plus there. Not a lot of people, but when you've got 83 counties and you're winning 60 or 70 of them, that's how it works. And he builds it up there. And then the question is, can the Democrats overcome it with huge numbers where the people live? Number one, Wayne County, we're still only at 16%. So if you're in the Harris campaign, you're saying, okay, we have almost nothing or less than 20% from Detroit, right? So she's getting 62%. She has 88,000 votes. And Jake, if you go back to 2020, again, when Donald Trump won Michigan, he's getting 68, and he gets close to 600,000 votes. So that's sort of our test. When Wayne County gives us more votes, do we get a huge number like that, and is the split, right? Donald Trump at 30%, that's Detroit and the suburbs around it. Donald Trump right now, it's only 20%. It's less than 20%, 16%. So, but that if he's even above 30, right? Anything he's above 30 is an improvement for him. And so we can't see it all on this map. We have to get more granular. But Detroit, is he doing better? Is Trump doing better with the black vote? Or where is overall turnout maybe down a little bit from 2020? That's a big question, too. And then here you have Hamtramck and you have Dearborn. They're not on the map, but they're right here. Those are two very important pockets of Arab American voters that were 200,000 plus voted for Joe Biden 4 years ago. We don't know. We don't have that granular detail just yet, but that was one of the big questions in the campaign. Spent a lot of time on my trips at Wayne State campus. Younger voters, a lot of Arab and Muslim students at Wayne State, and a lot of young progressive students at Wayne State. Did they lose the youth vote there? A lot of the questions. Now, I'm raising questions that we'll answer in more detail tomorrow and next week and the week after that when we have final results. But if you're 158,000 votes ahead, only halfway in Michigan, I mean, I hate to say it, but you're looking at this, and that's the best. Yeah. Of the three blue wall states.
Let's go to Wayne County right now. Let's go to Detroit, where we find Jim Sciutto, who has an update on the vote count there. Jim?
Jake, there have been a lot of questions and some consternation as to why we haven't seen more data from Wayne County yet. And I just spoke with the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, and we believe we have the answer here. I asked her quite specifically. And she said the reason is that Wayne County, in part, given all the scrutiny on this county as it impacts the outcome of the election in this state, is not reporting partial results. It's waiting until it has either all or the vast majority of those results in before it, in effect, gives that batch and makes it public. And I just want to highlight one point that's going to happen in the next hour, perhaps even the next few minutes. A nondescript U-Haul van is going to drive in one of these doors behind me here with the last remaining outstanding absentee ballots in Detroit, part of Wayne County, about 4,000 we expect. That's the final batch, not just, we are told, of absentee ballots outstanding, but the final outstanding votes in Detroit, big part of Wayne County. So when that truck comes through the door, they begin to tabulate those. That gets us to the point where they're going to have, in effect, all the votes they need to count and get to that point where they're going to be ready to report those final figures. We were told it could be in the next few minutes. We'll be watching. We'll report back when it happens. But that could be the point when you get that big batch reported publicly.
All right, Jim Sciutto in Detroit, Wayne County. And you were noting that we don't have Wayne County to the granular level, that we can't see Dearborn and other places where there were a lot of uncommitted votes during the Democratic primary. But just to remind our viewers, during the Democratic primaries, as a protest of President Biden's support for the Netanyahu government of Israel and its war on Hamas in Gaza, 100,000 Democrats voted uncommitted, presumably most of them as a protest vote against Biden for that issue.
Yes, absolutely. And most of them were located here in Wayne County. Again, you have Detroit, progressive city, but also Hamtramck and Dearborn, just to the north and to the west. Large pockets, Arab American communities there that are very angry at the White House. And then the next one, you come out here, again, this is Washtenaw County, where I've been 4 times, maybe 5 times, no, 4, in this election, to go to the University of Michigan and talk to people out there. And again, we're at 71% right now, so the numbers can change, but she's at 66%. This is Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. Again, you have a big college campus. It tends to be a very liberal pocket, progressive pocket. You're saying, wow, 65% of the vote, 66 if you round up, that's great.
Oh, my God.
73%. And the math, 157,000, to 103. Well, again, we got 30% of the votes still to come in, and maybe the percentages change as well. Maybe all the votes that are out are from the campus, and it juices up the number a little bit. But if you're looking at that now, you're underperforming the President of the United States. And Donald Trump's at 32%. At 26%. If that gap holds, and if his improvement like that holds, I'm sorry, go ahead. That's a big deal, though.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things you hear from the Arab American and Muslim American community in places like Michigan is not that they were going to vote for Donald Trump, right, but they either were not going to vote or they were going to vote for Jill Stein, right, or Cornel West. I'm not sure if Cornel West is on the ballot in Michigan, but these numbers don't add up to 100 here, right, so I'm guessing that there is a better than, my guess would be, educated guess would be, there's going to be a better than average showing for Jill Stein in Michigan than in other states.
Right, and she worked it hard. She was out there quite a bit. Every trip I was out there, you saw activity. Either she was in the state or had just been in the state.
Yeah. So just to explain it. Now, one of the other things I heard about people talking about Michigan is everybody in the media, all you talk about is the Arab American, Muslim American vote, but really the issue in terms of a big sizable, bigger chunk of votes is white working class voters, union voters, because the Trump campaign ran ads slamming Harris's position on electric vehicles, EVs, and that is actually going to be more significant ultimately. That was, this is just their projection, than the Arab American, Muslim American vote. Is there any way we can gauge that, how well or poorly she did compared to Biden when it comes to white, non-college educated union voters?
David would have the exit polls, so he could look at union households. That's a question on the exit polls. I can show you some counties where we were. 3 times I went out there to talk to union auto worker groups. And I want to just say this up front. There are more automobile manufacturing jobs in the United States today than at any point during the Trump presidency. I repeat, there are more auto manufacturing jobs in the United States today than at any point in the Trump presidency. However, the EV debate is a debate. Stellantis just laid off 1,100 people, right, and in part because they say they have electric vehicles sitting on the lot. The union says that's BS. It's corporate greed. They're not keeping their word. But this is a conversation. Are they going too fast? At a minimum, are they going too fast? There are some auto workers who say, why are you forcing this on us? There are others saying the infrastructure is not in place. Culturally, people aren't ready for them. Why are you going so fast? So one of the places you'll find that is right here in Macomb County. We met Joseph Knowles, just laid off from Stellantis, a black union auto worker. No one in his family had ever voted Republican for president. He was voting for Donald Trump. He said everybody in his family was mad at him. This is where you find them right here. Bill Govier is another Ford worker in Macomb County who wanted to vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. When he dropped out and backed Trump, Bill Govier said, that's great. I love them both. And he voted for Trump a 3rd time. So some of them have been in Trump's camp. like a Bill Govier. Joseph Knowles is a +1, voted Democrat all his life, right? So there, Macomb County, we got a long way to go here, 36%. But Trump at 58, when you round that up, Trump at 53 right there. So again, we'll see if that sustains itself.
Yeah.
And the Biden number at 45, the Harris number at 40. If that's the number at the end, then it's very hard.
Well,
to
there
see you
go, and you can see why, and not all of that changes from that one issue or that one demographic I described, but that is quite significant if it holds. Let's go to Pamela Brown at the voting desk. Let's jump to Wisconsin if we could, because Pamela wants to talk about Milwaukee and what's going on there. Pamela?
Yeah, I've been talking to officials there in Milwaukee County as well as the city. Let's look at Milwaukee County right now. A large portion of the vote that remains is from Milwaukee City itself. This is the largest county. This is the largest city in Wisconsin. According to a source in Milwaukee County, 9 out of 19 municipalities are completely reported. And the source also says that the county clerk there expects all results from Milwaukee County to be reported between 2 and 4 a.m. tonight, Central Time. So these results coming in overnight there from Milwaukee County. That is the expectation. Now, let's dive in here to the Milwaukee City. I just spoke to an official there. Milwaukee City has 27,724 mail-in ballots left to be counted so far. In addition, officials are still waiting for results from 4 wards still, and those would be the day of votes. So from election day. So there's still quite a bit to go to count tonight there in Milwaukee City. For context, 69% went for Biden in 2020. And as I mentioned, this is the largest county in Wisconsin. So we're keeping a close eye on this.
All right, Pamela, thanks so much. Let's take a look at Wisconsin as long as Pamela drove us here.
So a critical point she makes, 4 wards in the city of Milwaukee still have not reported their election day votes. And again, anecdotally, just texting people out in the state, they said turnout was good. They weren't saying great or gangbusters. They were saying good. So we wait. You wait. But again, so we're waiting for the city. This is Milwaukee plus the suburbs around it. The county is what you see here. But she's at 66%, and Joe Biden's at 69%. So when those city of Milwaukee votes come in, that not only does that percentage need to move, but that math needs to change quite significantly if you're trying to make up that. Now, 96,000. That's better than 150,000, right? Simple math, people. We always say politics can be very complicated. Sometimes it comes down to basic arithmetic. Are there enough votes still out there to overcome a 96,000 vote lead? And, so if Pam says 4 big wards are still out in Milwaukee City and there's a little bit more in Milwaukee County, the answer is maybe, right? Again, you're getting to the point where you're drawing to an inside straight flush, but maybe. So then you look around in other Democratic areas, and again, Eau Claire, she's getting 55% of the vote. I just want to compare that.
Same thing.
That's okay, a little better maybe, but it's just not a ton of people there. Then you come down to La Crosse. You're looking at the blue areas and you're saying, is there anything left? Not much left, right? It's not a huge swing anyway. So even if you pick up some votes, you're not picking up a ton there. So if you're looking at this map now, I just want to check what was our percentage here? 95% in Dane County, and these other blue counties around it. I'll hit them for you. You just see they're pretty small population-wise. I mean, not tiny, but again, you're at 95% Rock County, 95% Greene County. 92% Lafayette County. That one is a little bit smaller. So, again, the math's getting really hard if you're trying to figure out, can Harris come back in Wisconsin? And I would say simply that it comes down to that, and those Milwaukee precincts that are out better be gangbusters.
May I do a personal prerogative? May I see the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? We haven't checked in there in a while, and that's obviously a place near and dear to my heart. And I have questions about it. One of them is Allentown, which is blue right now. Allentown, the city of Allentown is 54% Latino, 54%, and Pennsylvania, as we've discussed, has the 3rd largest Puerto Rican population on the mainland, behind only New York and New York and Florida. So my question is, how is she doing in this Latino area compared to Joe Biden 4 years ago?
Again, cannot go granular just into the city of Allentown, but you can look at Lehigh County here, right? And I can already tell you, 51 to 48, if you're the Trump campaign, sure, you'd like to win it. But you're looking at 48% in Lehigh County, and you're feeling pretty good because you were 46 last time. Right? And again, within a battleground state, you think margins within the margins, the battlegrounds within the battlegrounds. So Joe Biden at 53% with 98,000 votes, the vice president at 50% with 93,000 votes. Now, we're not completely done there, but that 5,000 votes makes a big difference. It just does, right? So and that's there, right? So then you come out here, and you come up, let's just move on up, right? Carbon County, look at this, Trump getting 73% of the vote. You know, he's improved. That's one of the places he's overperformed himself. And then you move up here, this is Lackawanna County, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Joe Biden's hometown. It's a tough, competitive blue-collar area, but 51 to 48 now, 54 to 45.
And if that movement of 4%
right.
can be the whole thing.
It's a couple thousand votes here. It's a couple of thousand votes there. I want to show you something.
By the way,
else.
can I just point out
Erie has now flipped.
Erie, which has always voted with the presidential victor in Pennsylvania and nationally, is now with Trump.
Has flipped, and let's see where the turnout is there. Again, it's one of the 25. They're at 95%. It's very close, but it's always very close. So you see Erie County very close there, and I just want to come across the state, Northampton County. So you're on the your Buffalo, New York border, and here's New Jersey here. You've got 52 to 47 there. Not done yet, but the two multi-pivot counties, twice for Obama, then for Trump, then for Biden. At the moment, they're going back to Trump. I just want to show one more thing we haven't shown tonight. I just want to bring this up and bring this out. It's not here. It is here. No, it is here. Sorry. I will figure this out eventually. I promise you. I just have too many gizmos. Just want to come in here. Come on. And show you this. So let's go out nationally first. Everyone's been talking all night long about the headwinds. There'll be a lot of questions asked about this after the fact. This is not a good environment for any incumbent. Kamala Harris is the incumbent vice president. What this shows you is not votes. This shows you the darker the county, the more that county has been hit by inflation. Meaning, the darker the county, the more cost of living, energy prices, gas prices, housing prices in a lot of places have outpaced wage increases. Right? Try to find me. See the green?
Yeah, what does that mean? That's
the county where your wages have outpaced inflations. You can use a hand. You will fill one hand. In the more than 4,000 counties and townships in the United States, you use one hand to fill out the counties where wages have outpaced inflation.
So can I make two observations?
So I just want to come back into your Commonwealth.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
I want to come back to your Commonwealth. The darker the county, the more punishing, the more inflation has outpaced your wages, your cost of living. And just look. I mean, the fact that she's doing as well in the suburbs is a testament to the Democratic strength there. But you see in these other places, it's just that was the headwind. And that came up. I can tell you I was on the road for 15 months, and that came up from the first trip to the last trip, even for people voting for Harris. Even for people gladly and proudly voting for Harris, we're saying it still sucks when I go to the grocery store.
Yeah, and that's also why, the right track, wrong track numbers are 75% wrong track, 25, but the election's not 75%, 25, because there are people who think it's wrong track, but they're still going to vote for the Democrat. Yet, this is difficult to fight against if you're the incumbent.
That's North Carolina. Especially you're trying to win back.
Look at all the dark colors in Arizona and Nevada.
It gets worse as you go west. That's what I was going to say. Then you're in Georgia. Look, this is the Atlanta suburbs, right? If she loses just a little tiny bit, right? And look down here. These are working class people, right? And then you're absolutely right. Then you come out here and you look at in Arizona. That's Maricopa County. That's the largest county. Up here is usually Democratic area.
He's winning Maricopa County.
He is at the, that's just the, let's see. Let's come up there. It's close. That one's close still at half and half as you bring that out. And then you come here. This to me, of all the visits, you want to talk a place that still has the COVID body bruise because unemployment hit 30%, twice the national average.
Tourism.
And then the cost of living. I mean, look at it right there where, again, the darker the county, the more, and out here it's housing more than anything. Housing in Vegas, a lot of people rent. There's not a lot of land to build new houses, so the rents go up. And once the COVID moratorium on rent increases went up, rents went up through the chutes, and a lot of the working class people out there complaining about that.
I wasn't done with Pennsylvania,
but we'll go back.
But hold on, because Pamela. No, go to Pennsylvania because Pamela's. I'm gonna throw it to Pamela. She has some information on Georgia. If you could. There you go. Pamela, what do you got for us in Georgia?
This is important information in Georgia. I'm getting from Gabriel Sterling, the top election official there. The margin right now in Georgia is 118,000 votes, right? 100,000 votes are outstanding right now. This is what I'm being told from Gabriel Sterling. Now, he says the split will go marginally for Harris. So let's break down what we know about where some of that outstanding vote is. Chatham, 40,000 outstanding, I'm told. This is a county that went to Biden in 2020. Carroll, outstanding, 18,000. This is a county that went to Trump in 2020. And then you have the blue counties of DeKalb and Fulton. DeKalb has 3,000 outstanding ballots. Fulton has 2,000 outstanding ballots. Again, just to recap, tight margin, 118,000, 100,000 votes still out in Georgia. And Gabriel Sterling says it's the split coming from that will be marginally, his prediction is for Harris. But this is what the data coming in is showing right now. Back to you.
John, do you have any questions for Pamela?
You say the total outstanding votes is 100,000?
He said 100,000 votes out. Yep.
Well,
and so I just gave you a little snapshot of where some of those places are. Chad and Carol, I asked, when are we going to find out these results from these counties? He did not have a timeline exactly for that, but hopefully soon.
But the significance, obviously, that Donald Trump right now has a margin of 118,838 votes, and you're saying there's 100,000 left.
If he's being literal, sometimes 100,000, they're getting calls from counties and they say 20,000, it's really 22.
Right.
They say 30,000, it could be 33.
John,
but if he's
can I just jump in?
Yes, please.
Actually, we asked about how do you know these numbers, and actually by law they have to have it, the actual numbers. So I understand your point, but I think they do have more precise numbers based on what the law requires.
Interesting.
Well, then that math sends a shockwave through the Harris campaign.
Yeah.
If that is literal, just even if she won them all, if there's 100,000 left, and she won them all, and she won't, he's 118,000
She
votes
said
ahead.
Marginally for Harris, which means probably like 53-47 or something along those lines. Interesting. Well, we'll have the decision desk talk to the people in Georgia. Can I go back to Pennsylvania for 1 second? I want to look at Philly for a second because it was so important. It's so important for every Democrat to drive up the margins here. Harris is with 78% reporting. Harris is at 78.1%. to Donald Trump's 20%. We've already talked about this. This is a better performance by Donald Trump than in 2020 and also in 2016.
So watch where he is, right? You can look at it either way. He was at 18%. Now he's above 20%. If we go all the way back in time, 21 the state, he was at 15%. The third-party candidates mattered a little bit there, more statewide than they did in Philadelphia, but a little bit. So you just track Donald Trump in Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia, 15%. And 108,000 votes in 2016, 18%, 132,000 votes in 2020. We're not quite done in 2024, but it's a lower vote count.
It's the margins.
Because we're not at 100 yet, this down.
Yeah.
If he keeps that number, he's got that's going to pass the last one. Absolutely. The margins, again, she's at 78%. And there are some places that are swing counties, and you're fighting to move them. When you're starting a plan to run for president, and you know how deep Trump's support is across Pennsylvania, you know you have to do it here. You just have, it's math. It's math. I mean, 30% of the state population lives right here.
Yep.
Right here. So if you're going to offset that, you just got to run it up. You just got to run it up here. And she's at 78%. He was at 81%. This will be the conversation. If this plays out the way it's going right now, this will be the conversation in the Democratic Party, is what's happening in urban America, both in terms of the numbers, the turnout, the math, and the percentages.
So I read this in an exit poll, and whoever is listening from the exit poll desk, Challian or whoever, if I get this wrong or if there's been an updated number, please let me know. But it said black men in Pennsylvania, in 2020, 10% went for Trump. In 2024, 25% went for Trump. Black men in Pennsylvania more than doubled for Trump.
Well, if that number's true, I mean, after every election, you have the conversation, right? After 2016, it was what's happening to Democrats. I mean, it was already happening, but Trump put on steroids the Democrats' problem with white working-class people who work with their hands. And now I would say, take the white out of that. Take the white out of that.
It's just about working-class people.
The gains among black men, the gains among Latino men are among people who work with their hands, who have been punished, the conversations that strike you from 15 months on the road is, I could afford a new car, but then if any prices go up, I can't take that loan. Like I cannot put, there's no way. So you're asking your mechanic, can I keep this thing on the road for a little bit longer? And your Christmas time, you're telling your kids you're getting one gift, not two. Or we were going to try to go to Disneyland, but we're not this year.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the amusement park, that's a couple hours away by car, but we're not going to Disneyland or some big thing like that. These are the conversations you're having in state after state after state with people who have working class jobs. And some of them, union auto workers, they think that's a good middle-class job. Union auto workers who get the employee discount, who can get preferable financing, saying, I'm not going to take the risk to buy a new truck. I'm going to keep this older one on the road because I just can't do that on the family budget right now. Can't do it.
Yeah. Back to Caitlin Collins at Trump HQ in West Palm Beach, Florida. Caitlin, what are you learning right now about the former president's plans this evening?
Well, Jake, we have been waiting to hear whether or not he was actually going to come here to the convention center. And just to remind everyone at home, there are two separate parties happening right now. A watch party here where I am at the convention center in West Palm Beach, Florida. And then Donald Trump was also having an event at his Mar-a-Lago club surrounded by Republican allies, major donors, people like Elon Musk and RFK Jr. But we are now hearing from sources that Donald Trump is making plans to come over here. Obviously, they have to prepare the motorcade for him to get into to take about a 10-minute drive over here where the convention center is. But, Jake, that is a sign of how good the Trump campaign is feeling based on the numbers that John King just read there, that Donald Trump is preparing to come over here. He said earlier he had no speech planned. We'll see what he says when he's here. Kristen Holmes, we've been watching all of this. And obviously the Trump team has been watching the breakdown here of how he's been doing with certain demographics and how he's improving from where his standing was actually in 2020, certainly in 2016.
Yeah, and we were told that that was what they were seeing in internal polling. But of course, given what we were seeing and the people we were talking to on the ground, we had to wait and see how it played out. Now, I do want to add to what Donald Trump is doing right now, because we were told that while he was over at Mar-a-Lago, essentially this was a watch party, that was a dinner, they had giant screens. But the plan was always that if Donald Trump was going to come over, they were going to bring those members that were there at Mar-a-Lago over here. And I am told that currently those members are being bussed over here, meaning that Donald Trump's arrival is likely imminent. Now, all of those members are obviously going to have to be in place. As we've reported, it's kind of sparse here. There's not a lot of people. They're expecting over 100 people to be bussed over here. Those people are going to have to be in place before Donald Trump takes the stage, because these are going to be some of his biggest fans. They're going to want to fill the crowd here. But now they're coming over, so that gives you a little bit of a timeline of when we see Donald Trump moving from Mar-a-Lago to here. As we know, this room is about to fill up pretty quickly, probably within the next half hour.
Yeah, and of course the big question is what he's going to say. Obviously, he wouldn't come here likely and not take the stage that's behind us. It's already a room that's filled with his supporters. We'll be waiting to see what they say. Jake, obviously something that we've been watching closely, as ever since a few hours ago when those Virginia numbers were coming in, that was what first gave that sense of confidence to the Trump campaign. And obviously that has only continued to grow ever since seeing the calls in North Carolina, how well these Republican Senate candidates are doing also, and those numbers there in Pennsylvania, Jake.
All right, Caitlin, thanks so much. As we prepare for what we think is going to happen, Mr. Trump coming out and speaking, it is a good moment for us to take a measure of where the night is at this moment. We're still, of course, waiting to call several of the battleground states, 6 out of 7 of them. But, Chris, right now, I think it's fair to say anybody watching would rather be Donald Trump than Kamala Harris at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if he declares victory, he hasn't won the race yet. There is still a potential path to 270 electoral votes. None of the blue wall states have been called. If he says the trends are looking very good tonight, you can't argue with that.
And I'm going to go to Jake for a major projection.
That's right. We have another major projection for you now. And CNN can project that Georgia will go to Donald Trump. Georgia, a very hotly contested battleground of 16 electoral votes. This is the second of 7 battleground states that we have called, and both of them have been for Donald Trump. Let's take a look at what that means for the electoral math. Donald Trump right now has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris right now has 182 electoral votes. There are 270 needed to win. As of right now, CNN is not ready to project who is going to win the presidency, but I'm sorry for so rudely interrupting. Donald Trump has now been projected to have won the second of 7 key battleground states, with 5 more to go. And obviously, the blue wall states, as you were saying, are crucial.
And this is a flip, because in 2020, Joe Biden won. Now, despite the fact that Donald Trump tried really hard to find those 11,000 plus votes, they weren't there. And this time around, the projection that you just made is that they are there, plus, who knows however many votes there are. So this is even more evidence why we heard the Harris campaign manager, Jenna Malley-Dillon, say to reporters maybe an hour or 2 ago that the Sun Belt is basically gone, and they're looking at the blue wall, and they're still insisting that it is possible. But this is, again, a very, very bad news for Kamala
I mean, we
Harris.
went into the night with a lot of people talking about a potential realignment with both parties. Who would be the mix of people in each coalition? But it's actually looking pretty close to what we know in the past. You have white women voters with no college degree going for Trump in our exit polls. Similarly, with Latino men also going very heavily for Trump in our exit polls. So there's a sense that, like, people did not necessarily go into the ballot box and secretly vote for someone else. The people who in the past voted for Trump came home to Trump.
You know, people will be going through these exit polls and the analysis and what worked for Trump and didn't work for Harris. On gender, back in 2020, Biden won women by 7 points more than Trump won men. This time it's exactly even. Harris won women by 10 points. Trump won men by 10 points. But the one that just stands out, sort of a flashing light, Jake, Hispanics. Biden won Hispanics 4 years ago by 32 points. As of tonight, Harris has won Hispanics by 8 points.
Can I just add one other thing about what this Georgia projection means? What it means is that she's got to win Pennsylvania. If she doesn't win Pennsylvania, it's over.
Yeah, no, absolutely, especially with the fact that he is leading right now in the 5 battleground states that we have not called. He is leading in all 5 of them: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Donald Trump widening his lead in the race to 270 electoral votes with this new win. In Georgia, ballots are, of course, still being counted in these crucial battlegrounds. We could get new reporting on votes at any time. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back.
Election night in America. And
it is election night in America, and let us bring you back to where we are right now with 270 electoral votes needed to win. Donald Trump is in the lead with 246. Kamala Harris is at 182. There are still 5 battleground states that remain uncalled by CNN. Let us go and look at where they are. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead with 50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 165,000 vote lead. Let's go to Kamala Harris headquarters right now. Let's listen in.
Good evening, HU. I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in the promise of America. We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Cedric Richmond, top advisor to Kamala Harris, used to be top advisor to Joe Biden in the White House, basically telling people at Howard University, where Vice President Kamala Harris was going to have her celebration party, theoretically, that Kamala Harris is not going to come out tonight. She will come out tomorrow and address the nation, which I guess is what we could expect, given the fact that we're not going to know definitively this evening the results.
Ever been to Howard University when there's a big crowd? That is not the sound of a big crowd there. That is not celebratory mood, and I think that was a tough kind of coming out conversation for Cedric Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 2024 version of the Javits Center at this time. I'm not saying that it's going to end that way, but at this time, it's feeling like it's too early, and the senior person comes out and says, everybody go home and we'll see what happens, and we will see what happens when we get the rest of the votes. But
in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing.
Right.
And this very much felt, I mean, we talked before about whether this felt more like 2020 or 2016. This felt so much like the Javits Center, and specifically her campaign chairman, John Podesta, came out at almost exactly this same point 8 years ago and made almost exactly that same speech. And the next day, Hillary Clinton came out and conceded. Now, again, he is not at 270 yet. She has not lost this race, but you don't have to be a weatherman.
Right. And just to go over where we are right now, so there are 7 battleground states, and we have called, CNN has called, projected that Donald Trump will win 2 of them, North Carolina and Georgia. So of the 5 that are remaining, there's Arizona. Trump is in the lead currently with 0.72% of the vote. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is in the lead with 2.6% of the vote. Wisconsin, Donald Trump is in the lead by 3.53% of the vote. And then there's Michigan. Donald Trump is in the lead with 6.12% of the vote. There's also Nevada, which I don't see on that list there, and I haven't committed it to memory, but there wasn't enough really percentage of the vote that had come in yet for us to be definitively saying anything. In any case, the point I'm trying to make is of the 5 battleground states that are outstanding, Donald Trump is currently in the lead in all 5 of them.
And in a place like Nevada, the demographics are something that is more favorable to them. That's an electorate that has more male voters, more Latino voters, and those are 2 groups we're seeing who are leaning towards him.
And I just want to go back to, even though we don't know where the blue wall states are yet, we're still waiting for votes to come in, some of the underlying themes that we are seeing that, Audie, you were talking about a little while ago, that I think it's important to go back to. One of the things that we started out the evening with was about the women, the question about whether or not women were going to come out for Kamala Harris, right, whether or not men were going to come out for Kamala Harris in a post-Roe world on that issue. And if you just look at, for example, suburban women, they, according to the national polls, they went for Trump.
It seems like abortion was not the animating issue it was the way it was right after the Dobbs ruling. Mm-hmm. In so many of these exit polls, I'm seeing that the economy, the people who were most upset, listed themselves as angry or facing severe hardship. Those are the people who really went for Trump.
Yeah, I have to confess that I always thought in the last week or 2 of the campaign, this idea of the trying to appeal to secret voters was something of a risk. Anderson?
Jake, thanks very much. This is the first time we've all talked. David Axelrod, what do you make of what we've seen?
Look, I think that this was a race that was very, very close in the polling. And for the longest time, including up until last night, I and others said we had notions, we had feelings, but we weren't going to make any predictions. And the truth is we're sitting here tonight and we're waiting for the 3 states that can determine the race one way or the other to render a verdict, and they're close. And she's right to wait to have those votes counted. But what was very clear watching the night unfold is that rural areas voted for her in significantly less numbers than, or percentage-wise, than they did for Joe Biden 4 years ago. And she could make up the difference in some of these suburban areas and the cities. And I think the discussion that John King had was very pertinent. I care deeply, more than I can say tonight, about democracy and what it means. I've said it a million times, I'm the son of a refugee, and I revere this country, and I'm so grateful for what it's given my family and everyone else. But part of democracy, and this is my major difference with Donald Trump, part of a democracy is to honor the will of the people, to honor its institutions. And I imagine that's what the vice president's going to do when the final verdict comes in, if it's not a positive verdict. And I think there is a message in that. Yeah. There is a message in that. And I think it's an important message.
I think the reality is Kamala Harris faced tremendous headwinds heading into this. I was riding on a bit of a vibe, in a sense, in the final stretch because she did feel like she had energy. But the fundamentals have been against her from the outset. Biden's unpopularity was dragging her. She had opportunities to create distance with him, and I think chose not to. I think it's a respectful thing. You don't want to throw your boss under the bus. But the reality is Donald Trump was going to blow Joe Biden out of the water, and she needed to create that distance. There's also just some fundamental shifts that I think are happening, a realignment with the parties and within the country, and I think we need to be more in tune with them. This could end up being the most diverse coalition that ends up possibly electing Donald Trump, and we need to hear about why that is. It's the issues of the economy, borders.
The way this is playing out tonight, right, I think we need to recognize that over half of America feels very strongly about the things that Donald Trump feels strongly about, right? A secure border, the economy, crime. It might not be a perfect messenger, but the message resonates. And what we talked about this earlier, about the check engine light, all those things are real. Democracy is a luxury when you can't pay your bills. And I think, there are a great deal of Americans tonight who are sitting back and saying, kind of looking at everyone, that they view as the elite and kind of sneering and saying, we told you so. We're not garbage. We're hardworking people. We believe in these things, right? People don't like to be talked down to. This coalition, this is Hispanics. Trump is crushing in Hispanics, the Hispanic vote in Pennsylvania, right? He's getting 50% of the women vote.
Lehigh County, he's up from 2020. He was at 45%. He's now at 48%.
Yeah, Allentown is, we were talking about how, the Puerto Ricans would come out. He's winning those votes because you know what those people care about? They care about security. They care about economy. They care about those things around the kitchen table. So if the former president is going to be the next president, I think there's a lot of, America's going to have to sit back. He's going to win. It looks like he may win the popular vote, right? There's going to be a reckoning in America that people are going to have to sit back and say, maybe some of these things Trump's espousing are not crazy. Maybe he's right? Maybe the Democratic Party needs to come back to the center if they want to be competitive again. There's going to be a part where they're going to say, we need to go further to the left.
Ben?
I hear what you're saying. And I do see it differently because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite who are hurting tonight. There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they're facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight. If you're a parent of a trans kid, your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. There are going to be people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. And they're terrified tonight. And so it's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare. And those people didn't deserve to be respected and held and talked to. Those are the people who are going to pay the price for whatever Donald Trump decides to do.
Yeah, but Van, how do we know that those people didn't vote? A large portion of those people aren't a part of the people that elected Donald Trump. Well, right? I think that's a good part of the electorate. And the black women, the party, the Democratic Party, let those black women down. Not Donald Trump.
Dave,
we got to go. Okay. Let's go back to Jake.
All
right. Thanks so much. And we're going to bring you a key race alert right now. Let's check in with the states that we have not projected. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still in the lead there. 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 216,000 vote lead there, with 92% of the estimated vote coming in from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Michigan now, the Wolverine state. Donald Trump, 52% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 203,000 vote lead, with 61% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, that's the Badger State. Donald Trump, 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.3% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 110,000 vote lead, with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 12,242 vote lead there, a little bit more narrow, with 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. We are awaiting more votes from the outstanding presidential battlegrounds as this race goes into the night shift, and we expect to hear Donald Trump speak to his supporters very soon. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay here. And we have a projection for you now. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the state of New Mexico. New Mexico, as expected, will go to the Democrat, Vice President Kamala Harris. New Mexico with its 5 electoral votes. What does that bring us in terms of the math? Let us look. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris, with the addition of New Mexico, has 187 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes, as always, needed to win. Let's look at the states we have not called yet. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead there still, 51.1% of the vote, ahead of Kamala Harris, who has 47.8% of the vote. Trump leads with more than 214,000 votes. That's with an estimated 92% of the vote in. Michigan now, Donald Trump in the lead, 52.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 215,000 vote lead. That's with 62% of the estimated vote in from the Wolverine State. The Badger State of Wisconsin now, Donald Trump, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.2% of the vote. Donald Trump, more than 113,000 votes ahead of Harris, with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. In Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Harris with 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 12,000 vote lead. That's with only 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Still a lot of votes to count in Arizona. Nevada now, they've really counted a lot of votes. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 33,000 vote lead. That is with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. Last time we looked, it was only 2%. John King, look at that. Your buddies in Nevada reporting their votes there.
Well, last time it took a very, very long time. So if they're starting to get some in tonight, that's progress for Nevada. I just want to show this. This was the conversation you guys were having over at the panel table the other day, just on the importance of Pennsylvania, as we're at this point now, where North Carolina and Georgia have gone for Trump. You see the yellow of the states still on the map. Now, we project Alaska is going to come in for the Republican. If that were to change, that would change these paths. But there is no path to 270 for the vice president that does not include the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So, yes, she needs to win all blue wall states to get there. That would get her there on its own as long as she wins Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District. But there's no way to get there without Pennsylvania, which is why that is absolutely critical that she win there. I just want to show you what I mean. Let's assume that she came back and won Michigan. She's trailing now. Let's assume she came back and won Wisconsin. She's trailing now. She's trailing here, and she's trailing here. Even if she won them all, if Donald Trump won that, he'd be over the top. And so, if she is winning this, she can afford to lose something else along the way. But because this is why we've talked about this for weeks, and that's why both campaigns spent more money in Pennsylvania than any other state, Commonwealth by far. The 19 electoral votes, 19 versus 16, 19 versus 11, 19 versus 10. It just affects your path to 270 math in such a profound way. So as you look at where we are now and you come back out into the latest vote count right there, Pennsylvania is paramount. That does not mean the other ones don't matter. Just winning Pennsylvania wouldn't be enough to get her there either. I'm just saying she can't win without Pennsylvania. Donald Trump can. Donald Trump can, but she cannot win without Pennsylvania. And so if you look here right now, where are you? That's 219,342 votes with 93% of the vote in. This is why when you heard Cedric Richmond at the Harris event said we would not hear from the vice president tonight and that she wants every vote counted. You did not hear him say, we see a viable path to victory. He did not speak those words. That doesn't mean it's not mathematical. The states have not been called. But he did not say we see a viable path to victory. He said we want all the votes to be counted. And so you look here at 51%. Again, one of the big questions was, could Donald Trump get over 50? In most of these battleground states in 2016 and 2020, he was a 47, he was a 48, maybe he was a 49. In Pennsylvania right now, Donald Trump is at 51.1. And again, you're looking at a state, the vice president simply, there's a lot of states to count still, but if you want to look at one question, she cannot lose Pennsylvania. She just cannot. The math doesn't work if she does. So you're looking, yes, there are still some votes down to be counted down here. I think when we get closer to 100% in Philadelphia, that's going to settle the math once and for all. It's improbable at the moment. Let's just be honest about it, but it's not impossible. So you keep it on the board right there, and you look 78% though. 78% estimated in Philadelphia. She's at 78%. Look at the 484. You come back here, 78% to 81%. 3 points in the state's largest city that is absolutely fundamental to Democratic victory, underperforming Joe Biden by 3 percentage points, and at the moment, more than 100,000 votes. We're not done with the math yet. That's it. I mean, you can find other places too. You can find. We looked through some of the blue-collar counties earlier where she was underperforming Biden and Trump was moving up. We can come back and look at that again if you want. Just Trump outperforming 2020 by 3% or more. This is significant. It's happening mostly in counties he's winning anyway. But she's overperformed a little bit in Chester County down there, which, again, 8-10 years ago was a Republican county. But where is Donald, in Bucks County, which he's is currently flipped to red. But a lot of it's out here in places where Donald Trump already runs strong. He's running stronger. And that's critical. One of the questions coming into the campaign was, well, Donald Trump got 2016 phenomenon, more votes in 2020, but he lost. Are there really more Trump voters out there? Well, yes, apparently there are. And you see them right there, and you see them in other states as well. So there's Pennsylvania. Jake, I just want to go through these quickly to see if the math has changed. 63%. We've been stuck there for a little bit. You come down here. Again, when you're looking at 224,000 votes, Joe Biden won Michigan by 154,000 votes. Donald Trump's at 224,000 votes. And so you're looking and you're saying, where? Where? Is it possible? Well, the only place you can get that many votes is Wayne County. They're at 24%. So you see, she's at 58% right there. Donald Trump at 39%. Again, you want the conversation that is going to start once these states are called, assuming we stay on the trajectory we are on, which the trajectory we are on, not there, we're not the finish line, but the trajectory we are on is an overwhelming Donald Trump victory in the Electoral College. The possibility of flipping back all 3 blue wall states. But even if he loses Michigan, look at that. That's going to be a conversation in the Democratic Party. How's that happening? How is Donald Trump getting 30% up to 39%? How's that happen? How did he get 30%? The Democrats were already debating how did he get 30% 4 years ago. If that number holds and Donald Trump's above 35%, close to 40% in Wayne County, Michigan, the Democratic Party has a big conversation on its hand. When I started doing this a very long time ago, it was about the Reagan Democrats in Macomb County. Now it's going to be about the Trump Democrats everywhere. Including black men in Wayne County. There'll be people saying it's the Arab American vote. Young voters didn't come out. The analysis will start as soon as we're done getting someone to 270. But that's a huge problem. And you see it again here. Again, the foundation of the Democratic Party is urban America and then the close-in suburbs. That's where the math is. And that has allowed Democrats, allowed Joe Biden to withstand all of that. Donald Trump's phenomenon in rural America, where he's not only winning those counties, but the math is up, and this time again, he turned out more voters. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Milwaukee County, the city and the suburbs around it, but the vice president's at 66%. That looks impressive, except when you go back 4 years ago, and you see the president of the United States was at 69%. And so in place after place, especially starting in the foundations, Anderson, the building blocks of the Democratic Party, which is urban America, she's having a problem. We're not done with all the vote counting yet, but she's underperforming President Biden from 4 years ago. In the close-in suburbs, I can find some exceptions to this, but in the close-in suburbs, she's doing reasonably well, reasonably close, exceeding it in some places. But Trump is doing better in urban America, a little bit better in some key suburbs in battleground states, and turning out even more voters in the red rural counties where we have seen the Trump phenomenon in 2016 and 2020. It's with us again in 2024.
Yeah. John, we'll come back to you. Caitlin Collins at Trump headquarters, where we expect the former president to speak soon. Caitlin, do we know, how soon he may get there and any idea on what he may say?
no, and no, Anderson. Obviously, we're waiting to see what this is going to look like because this is so new to the Trump campaign as well. They've been watching these numbers carefully all night as John King has been going back and forth on the magic wall, but they themselves obviously were waiting to see, were there any surprises in store? They were watching closely. The gut check of North Carolina and Georgia obviously came through for them, and now we are told Donald Trump is he is making preparations to head over here to the convention center. This is where the official watch party is, and Anderson, we saw aides preparing the teleprompter on stage, heightening the lectern and the microphone to make sure it's ready. So a clear sign that we do expect to hear from him. When that happens remains to be seen. And Kristen, obviously, as we've been looking at this, Trump is famously very superstitious. He doesn't like to, start planning things too far in advance, talking too much about who he'd put in a potential cabinet, much less working on a speech, which he said today he did not have remarks prepared.
And even the people around him were hesitant to put anything down. There were some conversations about potentially drafting something either way, drafting two versions of the speeches, but they were still hesitant to even do that. And a reminder that Donald Trump finished up his rally last night at 2:30 in the morning. When they got on the plane, there were some conversations about what tonight was going to look like, but essentially everybody was like, let's wait and see, let's go and see. Now, I am told that when Donald Trump gets here, it's not clear if he's going to go to the stage right away. We know, obviously, they have called North Carolina and Georgia, which were big wins for the Trump campaign. Whether or not they're going to wait for one more of those big swing states remains to be seen. We do believe he's going to be here imminently, that he's going to leave Mar-a-Lago, head over here. We obviously know that they have bussed over all of the people from Mar-a-Lago who have just arrived here. We've seen this room fill out. But how exactly he's going to handle this moment remains to be seen. We know what happened, obviously, in 2020. I am told he's in a very different headspace now than he was at that point, probably because of the fact that they are telling him that he could win this.
Yeah, you could sense that today when he was voting at his polling place as well. He was talking in more reflective ways about the campaign. He was saying he believed it was one of the best campaigns they've ever run, talking about in terms of just pure messaging. I mean, obviously, some of his allies would disagree from the candidate himself on that front. But one thing about this room tonight, obviously it's filled with his supporters who were here, who were invited by the campaign. A lot of his allies were also at Mar-a-Lago with him, people like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dana White. We've seen Senator Marco Rubio trickling in here. House Speaker Mike Johnson is also on the way. So it's also important to see who's going to be around him in
That's going to
moment.
matter to Donald Trump a lot. It's going to matter to Donald Trump a lot who actually steps up and shows up here tonight, who left their races early before they were called or right after they were called to come to Palm Beach. And we were told that there were a lot of people considering doing that because of the fact that they know Donald Trump cares about loyalty. They were considering coming if it looked like the race was going the way that it currently looks like it's going. So we can likely expect more House members here that we've seen already.
Yeah, and we know family members obviously have been around him. We saw, I was told by someone that Barron Trump was with him in Mar-a-Lago earlier. Obviously, Melania Trump went and voted with him at their polling place just a few hours after y'all got back from Michigan from that early morning rally. Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, I think that's an open question. They do live down here, obviously, in South Florida, but they have not been prominent faces on the campaign trail.
And even during his trials, I mean, one thing to remember is that they came and saw him after he was convicted, but stayed behind closed doors at all times. They were up at Trump Tower. They never made an appearance with him. He has really done this campaign without any of their help. They've been with just Aaron.
Yeah, obviously, Kristen, thank you. Jake, back to you.
Thanks so much. We have a major projection in the battle for control of Congress. And CNN can now project that Republicans will win back control of the United States Senate. We can make this projection because CNN projects Republicans win the U.S. Senate seat in Nebraska. The GOP picking up enough seats to reclaim the majority that they lost 4 years ago. This is a huge victory for Donald Trump's party as we're still waiting the final outcome of the presidential race. And Dana Bash, there were a lot of questions in the air about what was going to happen. Ultimately, what happened with the U.S. Senate is what we generally thought was going to happen. Republicans now have control.
It was a very, very good map for Republicans this time around and a very bad map for Democrats. One of the questions was whether or not these kind of brand name, long-serving Democrats would be able to kind of outperform the realities of their states, whether it's Jon Tester in Montana or Sherrod Brown in Ohio. And the answer is no.
Yeah, Sherrod Brown is a great example because he came to office in 2006 during a kind of blue wave, survived 2018. Like, he was always there for when it was more favorable for Democrats, and that was not this year.
I mean, let's talk about the significance of a Republican Senate if, and I repeat, if Donald Trump is elected president. It means that they can confirm without any Democratic votes any appointment he makes to his cabinet, to the government, to the Supreme Court, should there be a vacancy. It's an enormous advantage to a president. And at this point, we haven't talked about it much, but in the House, although that hasn't been decided yet, the Republicans have flipped 3 Democratic seats. The Democrats haven't flipped a single Republican seat. So there is the possibility here of a complete united Republican government with Donald Trump as the president and with a Republican House and Senate, which means that in terms of appointments, in terms of immigration policy, economic policy, environmental policy, you name it, he could have a pretty blank check.
So, for example, on immigration policy, which is something that we think that Donald Trump would, if he wins, want to enact something along the lines of the proposals he's made. Republicans have said, we passed an immigration bill, H.R. 2, which was a
compromise package.
A tough, it wasn't a compromise package. It was a tough immigration bill.
At least.
It was H.R. 2.
He's talking about the House.
Sorry. The House version is what I'm saying. The Senate version was bipartisan. The House version, when you ask Speaker Johnson, what have you accomplished? He said, well, we passed all this legislation, but it just died in the Senate because Chuck Schumer wouldn't even allow a vote on it, assuming that Republicans hold on to the House, we have no idea, but it's not crazy.
But you're getting into a level of detail that I think,
my point is just that
Donald Trump campaigned on mass deportations. So this
what I'm saying is he could do
was for.
That's what I'm saying. My point is whatever Donald Trump wants, if they have the Senate now, if they get the White House and if they get the House, if they keep the House, whatever Donald Trump wants will become law. There will not be the backstop of the Senate controlled by Democrats.
Did not want the backstop. This is what I'm trying to say. We may be looking at a map of voters who weren't looking to give him a backstop.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Not to get too sort of dorky here, but I think it is still possible, if he is president, that some big pieces of legislation could be stopped in the United States Senate because legislation at this point still needs 60 votes. But it is the cabinet who he's going to have in his, not just in and around his administration, but again, the bench. That is all regular majority.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it because the Supreme Court They ruled on the Chevron deference and basically said executive agencies can't have the untrammeled authority to do what they want. It has to be passed by Congress. And you could end up with the Democratic minority. I mean, again, all of this is somewhat speculative. Democratic minority in the Senate being able to block legislation and the Trump agencies not able to enact it on their own.
Yep. Just one of many things that we would be talking about if Donald Trump does, in fact, win. We're not there yet. Jake, over to you.
Thanks, Dana. Let's bring you back to the key race alert and where we stand with the battleground states that we have not called yet. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.1% to Kamala Harris's 47.8%. Donald Trump has an almost 220,000 vote lead. That's with 93% of the estimated vote in from the great Keystone State. Michigan, Donald Trump up 52.4% to Harris's 45.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 244,000 vote lead in Michigan with 66% of the estimated vote in. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump 51.2%, Harris 47.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 120,000 vote lead with an estimated 89% of the vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead 50% to Harris's 49.1%. Donald Trump has a 16,000-plus vote lead with an estimated 53% of the vote in from Arizona. In Nevada, Donald Trump in the lead there, 51%, to Kamala Harris's 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 37,000 vote lead with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. John King?
You're looking at the map and we're watching, we're just trying to see. The only question really now is, well, the first question is, can the vice president win Pennsylvania? If she does not, Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. And then from there, if she wins Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still has other paths to 270. So for the vice president, your priority is here. And you'll notice all three of those states are red. That's the so-called blue wall. The blue wall is ruby red at the moment, not done counting the votes. So let's turn it off and wander through them, starting in your home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Key thing here, these are close battleground states. Look at the size of Donald Trump's lead as we go through them. Right, Joe Biden wins this by 80,000 and change 4 years ago. Donald Trump is ahead with 93% of the vote in by 219,000 votes plus. So that's hard to overcome when you're at 93%. And statewide so far, you're getting 48% if you round that up. Do the math at home. She has to get well in excess of that, hugely in excess of that when you're at 93% to have a chance to catch up. Hugely, way overperform where she has been throughout the night. Miracles happen. So you look here at Philadelphia, you kind of come here. This gets pretty stunning when you go through it county by county. We're not at the final results. Maybe the end will look a little better than this. Maybe the vice president can come back. But again, you look at here, Donald Trump getting 21% in Philadelphia, the vice president getting 78%. You go back when Joe Biden won the state, Donald Trump was at 18, the president was at 81. And you're seeing this over and over again. You go out to Bucks County here, Joe Biden at 52%. If you round that up, Trump at 47 4 years ago. You come back here. I said early in the night, if this stays red, Donald Trump will win the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's still red. Not done, but it's still red. This is the blue-collar suburban area. Your cops, your firefighters move out of the city to get a little house with a patch of grass. It gets a little bit bigger out here when you move out, but look at this. It's just, she's at 48%, 49% if you round that up. The President of the United States was at 52. Again, it's a very competitive battleground county, but to win Pennsylvania, you want to be on the top end in Bucks County, and at the moment, the vice president is on the losing end. Then you move over here to Lehigh County. This was the big conversation, right? Both candidates there in the final days because of the Madison Square Garden event, the debate about is the Trump going to lose to Puerto Rican votes, and other Latino votes because of this. Well, at the moment, Harris, 95%, so not a lot of room for this to change. 51% for the vice president. She's winning the county, but she's not winning the county again. Look at Joe Biden. Now, this is Joe Biden's birth state. He had a home field advantage, maybe. It was in a pandemic. Donald Trump was at his weakest, I guess you come out of that. So you can rationalize it away, but we do the math here. And the math is that she's running behind. That's 53% for the president. And once again, the vice president. So there'll be a lot of conversations about blue-collar workers. Is it sexism? Is it racism? Is it because she didn't break with Biden on cost of living issues? This is going to be the conversation if this map continues. So you come back out again and you look. Here's a place. This is Trump country, Pennsylvania, Luzerne County, right? But you always look at sometimes the margins with it, where the other guy's winning or the other gal's winning. You just want to cut into their margins in a close battleground state. Donald Trump at 60, the vice president at 39%. And you come back here, Joe Biden at 42%. That's the difference. The margins within some of these places, even where you're losing, you have to improve your margins. Where you're winning, run them up. Where you're losing, try to cut the other guy's margins up. And she simply has failed to do that across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I could go on, but the point is the point. And then there's this. Again, in a big state like this, a complicated state like this, this is just Trump country. 70% here, 51% there, a little bit more competitive, but 75% there, 73% there. That's how he does it. And you have to combat that and contrast that. And even in those counties, again, in most of them, Harris not matching where the president was. So that's the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You look at the popular vote when you come on out. Again, Donald Trump lost the popular vote twice. Even when he won the presidency in 2016, he lost the popular vote. He lost it by more than 7 million votes 4 years ago. At the moment, a lot of votes to be counted. At the moment, he's 5 million votes ahead in the popular vote. And again, you know Donald Trump would like that trophy. In addition to winning 270 electoral votes, which he's not at yet, he's on a path to it, but he's not there yet, he would love that trophy. We'll see if he gets it. Michigan, we're up to 67% now. This has been a slow walk. You're up to 67%. But again, 154,000 votes for the president 4 years ago. Donald Trump's lead is well in excess of that. 224,000 votes. You're at 67%. So there's more vote out. A lot of it is right here. This is essentially it. Just like I said, Philadelphia is it. If the vice president's going to come have some improbable mathematical comeback in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it must be based in Philadelphia. That's where the most people live. That's where the most votes are out. The same for the vice president here in Michigan, only 32% in Wayne County. But again, this will be the conversation. If we get to the finish line and the result is as it is, look at Donald Trump at 41% in Wayne County. That's Detroit and the suburbs around Detroit. 30% in 2020, 40% in 2024. If Donald Trump has a 10-point gain in Detroit, that's Dearborn, that's Hamtramck, that's Wayne, auto factory, auto workers here, inner city Detroit here. That's going to be a giant conversation in the Democratic Party now, much like this was in the late 1980s when Ronald Reagan flipped Macomb County from blue to red. Trump has flipped it back. You see Trump at 57%, 58% if you want to round that up. Again, this will be the conversation after. If this race continues where it's looking right now, 41% for the Democrat in Macomb County right now, 45% for Joe Biden 4 years ago. So pick your challenge. Black voters in the urban area, cities in general, blue-collar workers in places like Macomb County, blue-collar workers in places like Luzerne County or Lackawanna County. You keep going on. She's underperforming where Joe Biden was 4 years ago. There can be many reasons for that. I would say one of them was a very effective Trump ad, what she said on The View when they asked her, what would you change? She said, not a thing. The Trump campaign, Trump himself, flawed candidate, although people are going to say, you all said he was a flawed candidate. This looks pretty impressive. But Trump's the ad messaging, the cost of living thing, where she said, not a thing. She tried to amend that answer later, but they turned that around pretty quickly.
It was, without question, and we've been saying this all year, the most professional campaign that Trump has had in his 3 runs for president. I came over here because I want you to show me, even in the blue states, what's going on. Let's, for example, take me to New Jersey. All right, that's a state. I mean, just look at that. 51. It's with 80%, 88% in, so not all the votes in, but 51% to 46%. How did Joe Biden do?
5 points. 5 points better for Donald Trump. Look at him more than him. You know, if you're a Democrat in a blue state, you're trying to figure out what's happening to my party. You know, is it all Trump? And I mean, there's a separate fascinating conversation going because a lot of the people who are going to be in that Republican Senate with a President Donald Trump, if this continues to go where it's going, you know as well as I do, a lot of them don't like him. They wish he was not the leader of their party. But he is, and there's nothing they can do about it, and they know that. And so they're going to work with it. But again, so the Republican candidate for president 4 years ago got 41% in New Jersey, and the Republican candidate for president this time is getting 47% in New Jersey. There'll be all sorts of, nobody spent any ad money there. Nobody focused on the presidential race there. Make all the excuses you want. That's a problem.
But it was a 16-point spread last time, and it's a 5-point spread now. What about New York? Take me to New York.
Come back out and come back in. The Empire State.
Okay, so she's up by 11 percentage points. Not all the votes in, 92%. So 11 points. How did Biden do?
Yeah, it's a lot more.
23.
23.
From 23 points to 11 points. So, I mean, it's not... And actually, you know what? Show me some of the counties. Can you go into, like, Queens and...
You can come down here, and you can get into Manhattan here.
So Manhattan...
And Manhattan is not Donald Trump territory.
Right.
It wasn't then.
I mean, like Queens, Bronx.
Now, you can wander around in here if you want to come over here to Bronx. So 27% for Donald Trump. Yeah.
83%. Yeah. So he made inroads in these outer boroughs as well. It's all about the blue wall as we wait for a final verdict in the battlegrounds of Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, 3 potential deciders in this presidential race. We're expecting Donald Trump to speak any moment, but first we're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back. It's election night in America, and forget the pundits and forget the polls. It is time to count votes. Let's take a look at where we are in the electoral math. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. There are still a number of states that are outstanding. Let's bring them to you now. Pennsylvania. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Harris, 48%. Donald Trump with a more than 189,000 vote lead, with 94% of the estimated vote in in the Commonwealth. Michigan, Donald Trump 52.1, Harris 46.1. Donald Trump with a more than 236,000 vote lead, 69% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, Donald Trump 51.3, Kamala Harris 47.1. Donald Trump with a more than 123,000 vote lead, 90% of the estimated vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump 50%, Harris 49.1%. Donald Trump with a 16,368 vote lead, with 53% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Nevada, now Donald Trump 51.1%, Harris 47.3%. Donald Trump with a more than 38,000 vote lead over Harris with an estimated 71% of the estimated vote. I have two more I want to show you right now because, as you know, Maine and Nebraska award their electoral votes according to congressional district. Maine's second congressional district, that is the more rural part of the district, Donald Trump is in the lead there, 53.9% of the vote. Harris, 43.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a almost 14,000 vote lead there in Maine's second congressional district. That's with just over a third of the estimated vote there. Then Nebraska, this is actually the congressional district number one, not the more competitive one. But in this one, which has not been called yet, Donald Trump has 51.5% of the vote. Harris with 46.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with an 11,311 vote lead there. That's with 75% of the estimated vote in. Nebraska's District 1. Nebraska's District 2, though, we should note, John, is actually the one that we're really keeping an eye on.
Keeping an eye on for the miracle trajectory for the vice president, if she can pull it off. She would need the blue dot, as they call it, the Omaha area, 2nd Congressional District, in addition to the blue wall. I just want to note, your eyes aren't playing with you at home. The so-called blue wall is deep red at the moment, and that is the vice president's biggest problem. She lost North Carolina and Georgia. She's losing Arizona and Nevada. We're not done there yet. But this is watch this map. I just want to circle one state. This is where we are now at 1:34 a.m. in the east. It might be 1:33 a.m. in the east if somebody wants to correct me. And that's 2020. There's a lot more blue there, but this is what I wanted to get to in 2016. This is Donald Trump remaking his 2016 map. And at the moment, if things hold up, we're not done yet out there. We got a long way to go, and sometimes Nevada takes days. It's possible he'll even add Nevada to the 2016 map. Now, we're not done, but this is a very impressive map for Donald Trump. I shouldn't have waited until 1:35 in the morning to do this, Jake, but as you know, we're on television. There's a great team of people here that you can't see, working the cameras and everything else. I have a great new media team that helps me with the Magic Wall. I want to show you one of the things the Magic Wall team, the new media team, came up with as we look at these votes. So your challenge in Wisconsin, right? The vice president has to turn around Donald Trump's pretty big leads. I shouldn't say pretty big leads. Big leads, 125,000. Wisconsin, 2 elections in a row, decided by 20,000 votes and change. His lead with 90% of the vote in is 125,000. That's a landslide in current day Wisconsin. We're not done yet, but our team has come up with a great way to look at this. So you're looking at votes over time, right? And what is the challenge for the vice president? Well, the vice president needs to narrow the gap, but go back to the beginning. Trump was ahead early. Harris got ahead of him. They kind of danced together for a while. And you see this flat line as we go. We've moved 1 a.m. You see 1 a.m. down here. The only way for her to win is to close those. Not happening. Has not been happening for a long time. That's Wisconsin. Let's move over to battleground Michigan. Same thing. She starts off way ahead. He comes up. They're competitive. He pulls ahead. And again, you're going, we cross past midnight to where we are now after 1 a.m. Pretty much a straight line across, meaning what? She's not narrowing the gap as more votes come in, right? Which you're trying to come back. It's pretty simple to look at home. So there's those two there. And let's come over to the biggest of them all, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Closer. You see it right there. It's closer. But she opened up a big lead early on. That's the early votes. You see what happens. Then Pennsylvania, closer. You see it right there. It's closer. But she opened up a big lead early on. That's the early votes. You see what happens. Then essentially, welcome to battleground Pennsylvania. They are just running in a straight line across. But the red line has stayed on top all the way across. That's close, 51 to 48. But she, that's close. But she needs it to narrow even more. Just a different way to look at it is just to see you're trying to find the trajectory, and is there any possibility that it's going to close? And at the moment, there's no evidence that those lines are coming closer together. Closest in your home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But again, Donald Trump at 51%, 191,000 votes ahead, with 94% reporting in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Just want to go back in time. At the beginning of the night, I said she's the variable. Her first time on the national ballot as the presidential nominee. He was the constant. Not in my lifetime, 3 elections in a row, the same Republican nominee for president. Well, Donald Trump getting 50%, 51% right now in Pennsylvania. In 2020, he was a 49. In 2016, he was a 49. Trump was the constant, right? The question, Democrats always said Trump can't get to 50 in the battleground states. So you have to eliminate the third-party candidates and just get above him. Just get above 49, get 49.5. Well, Trump tonight blew that part up, at least where we are right now, because he's above 50 in Pennsylvania. He's above 50 in Michigan, where he was at 48 again. And you go back to 2016, 48. Trump was a constant, except for this year he grew. Or he's growing anyway. We don't have the final numbers right now, but he's above 50 there. And then in battleground Wisconsin, I won't go back and forth again through it again, but he was a 47, 48, 2016, 2020, and there he is above 50% with, again, this state decided by 20,000 votes, 2 elections in a row. Donald Trump's ahead by 125,000. This state won by Joe Biden last time by 154,000 votes. A big win for the Democrats here. Then the Democratic governor wins in 2022. The Democrats may gain in the legislatures. Democrats think Michigan is growing in their favor. Donald Trump's 243,000 votes ahead with 69%. Still some room there maybe to see it happen. That's the one with the most outstanding vote. And Anderson, I throw back to you, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, so critical to Trump cracking the blue wall, flipping the blue wall in 2016. His biggest disappointment when he lost it in 2020. Still won't admit he lost it in 2020. And now you see in 2024, again, was an 80,000 vote win for Joe Biden last time. Donald Trump with 94% of the vote counted, Anderson, up by 191,000 votes. In battleground Pennsylvania, that's a blowout.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, as you were pointing out, in Wayne County in Detroit, he 10 percentage points higher than he ran in 2020. I mean, we're seeing that in county after county. Governor, what do you expect him to say tonight?
I don't know, Anderson. Listen,
he's going to be short.
Listen,
he's going to be concise.
There's going to be hopefully we see happy Trump. Happy Trump sells, right? Happy Trump's great for America. I think he'll thank the team, Susie, Chris LaSavita, the people who've been there when no one else believed. Those folks believed. Susie has been on this team since so far back nobody can remember. Nobody wanted to see Donald Trump. Nobody wanted to go talk to him. He was a pariah, and Susie was there, and this team has been there the entire time. You know, we've sat here, Anderson, through a lot of different trials and tribulations, literally, and 2 assassination attempts. And so I think he has a right at this point to be a little victorious on the stage and, pump his fist and say, damn it, we won. Be a little happy. Take the victory.
The trials are probably over now, and the question is, will the tribulations be ours?
Can I just say, by the way, this isn't the outcome I personally wanted. I'm happy with the decision I made not to support him. But you know what? I think Americans are going to accept the results of this. I think we're going to move forward. I don't think we're going to be storming the Capitol and spreading lies about our elections, because that's what you do if you care about democracy. I do want to hit on one thing, though. Abortion, abortion, abortion. We thought this was, many people, I should say, thought this would be the driving issue this election. It was going to drive women out in the suburbs. I warned about a year ago that in the key battleground states, Georgia's the only one that has what would be considered an ultra-restrictive abortion law. So if you're expecting voters to be highly animated about the laws of another state, in Pennsylvania and Michigan, I just don't think that materialized. Also, that a significant portion of the country actually did support the overturning of Roe. That is a fact in it. So I think there was an overemphasis there and not reading the mood that there are other issues that were driving women.
Well, there are 2 states that had abortion initiatives on the ballot today, Arizona and Nevada.
And Florida.
Well, but I'm saying that of the battleground states, they were on the ballot, and yet we'll see what happens in those states. But he appears to be headed toward it. But I think, look, first of all, let's just note that I hope what he does is stand up and talk about the country and show grace and thanks. You say he should take a victory lap, but
I mean, David, he's been getting the shit kicked out of him for 4 years.
Yes, because he refused to accept the results of the last election, because he helped instigate what we saw on January 6th. That's why he's been taking what he's been taking. These are things of his own making. But that's in the past now. The people have made this judgment. The question is, what does he do now? And one of the things that has not been apparent is the ability to actually put others first and put the country first and not make it all about him. You heard the whole discussion about he's going to remember who showed up and who left their campaign headquarters to be here and so on. These are not the instincts of a big leader. These are the instincts of these are selfish instincts. So, can he change at 78? We'll see.
I just think that I'm still absorbing all this. It's a lot. And I think when he steps out on the stage, we see him as like, America's next president. The world's looking too.
Yeah.
If you're a soldier in Ukraine looking at Russians being more and more aggressive, you're very nervous tonight. You're very nervous tonight. If you're a solar farmer in a red state trying to deal with this climate issue, we've had billion-dollar climate disasters. Your financing might fall apart tomorrow morning because you can't now count on the federal government being at the front lines of this fight the way that the Biden-Harris administration had put the United States government at the front of the climate fight. So you've got people all around the world whose fates are now in the hands of someone who can either be aggrieved or it can be big. He's usually not big. And so I think this is a shock. It's a political realignment for sure. The Republican Party can now claim to be a multiracial working class party. That is a shock. But the policy implications for planet Earth are yet to be known.
I mean, I think that's the real open question. So are we getting 20% tariffs? That's going to be devastating for the economy. Are there going to be mass deportations on American soil? That's what he ran on, and I believe it's actually the mandate the voters gave
listen,
him.
So I think on the tariff things, as you see, tariffs are a negotiating tool, right? That's what it was in the first administration. That's what it'll be in this administration. There are 350,000 criminal aliens here in the United States. I think it'd probably take 4 years to just find, locate, deport those murderers and rapists that are wandering around. The Biden Department of Justice acknowledges are out there. We need to get those folks off the streets. I don't think anybody in America is going to be complaining if we lock those folks up and deport them out of here.
He doesn't speak with that level of specificity when he talks about it.
I always hear that. During the Obama administration, they actually deported criminal aliens, more of them than were deported during the 4 years of the Trump administration.
We should keep rounding them up and kicking them out.
But the point is, what he says to get elected and we don't know. We just don't know because it's basically a vehicle for him. And the question is, does the country benefit?
We expect Donald Trump to speak any moment as we await more votes from the key battleground states. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is election night in America, and Americans have voted, and the votes are being counted. Let's look at the electoral vote math right now. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes. Obviously, 270 electoral votes are needed to win. So let's look at those states that remain outstanding. Pennsylvania, outstanding in so many ways. Donald Trump has 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 48% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 193,000 vote lead there, with an estimated 95% of the vote counted in that great Commonwealth. In Michigan, the Wolverine state, Donald Trump 52.2%, Kamala Harris 45.9%. Donald Trump with a 253,000 plus vote lead with 71% of the estimated vote in the great state of Michigan. In Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51.3%, Kamala Harris 47.2%. Donald Trump leading by more than 121,000 votes with an estimated 90% of the vote counted in Wisconsin. John King, those are the three blue wall states. They remain uncalled as of now, but Donald Trump leads in all three.
Right. Blue wall states uncalled, but the blue wall states are red as we get to approaching 2 a.m. in the morning, and we continue to count the votes. And you went through the margins. I mean, these are not insignificant margins. This is not 10 or 20,000 votes that a big county somewhere can change. 193,000 votes, again, just to remind you, Michigan was 81,000 votes. I mean, Pennsylvania was 81,000 votes 4 years ago and 44,000 votes 8 years ago. Donald Trump's lead at the moment is 193,000. So the math there is pretty obvious. He is overperforming his 2016 and his 2020 performance in one of the states that is trademark to the Trump movement. When you look at all that red in rural areas. So that's Pennsylvania. And you're looking, well, let me just, before I leave it, you're looking at, where's the math, right? Where's the math? Is it at all possible? I would say it's very improbable. But the votes, most of the votes that are outstanding are in Democratic areas. That's a fact. However, the percentages of those votes and the number of those votes that would have to come in to overcome 193,000, again, not going to say impossible, but I'm going to say highly improbable as you look at that. So then you move over to the next one, the state of Michigan. This one's now up to 71%. It was 63% the last time we looked at it. I think it was right here. LaPierre County just came in 70% for Trump, 69% for Trump. Modest-sized county. It's in the middle. It's about 23rd of 83 counties in Michigan. And you see right there, so again, the counties, the more votes that just came in that drove the percentage reporting up, right? If you're Harris, you're trying to catch up before that gets to 9,900, the new votes that just came in helped Trump. 253,601 again in Michigan. This was a big win for Joe Biden in 2020, 154,000 votes. It's a bigger win at the moment for Donald Trump, 253,000 votes in battleground Michigan. That's a big deal. Then we move over to Wisconsin. We're at 91%, and Donald Trump is 120,000 votes ahead. That is 100,000 more votes than decided the state of Wisconsin in both of the last two presidential elections. It was 22 in one, 20 in the other. It's 120, 549 at the moment, 91% in. So you look again, is it possible? Are there Democratic votes out there? This is where they're missing the biggest basket. There's some good Trump circles here too. So if you look at that, again, I'm not going to say impossible. We have a decision desk that does that work for me. For you, I'm going to say that's improbable. You're just looking at the math, again, with a lead that big. And we'll see how it plays out. I do want to show something. We're looking at Donald Trump above 50% nationally. You're looking at Donald Trump at the moment winning the popular vote, which he has not done in his prior two runs for the presidency, by 5.1 million votes. So I just want to show you something. How's he doing that? Well, he's obviously overperforming what he did in 2020. That's sort of a simple duh when you think about it. He's winning, so he's obviously overperforming 2020. These are states where he's outperforming himself by 3% or more. That doesn't matter as much to me what I want to get to. I want to get you to some of these counties. So you look at these places. Jake, we talked about this earlier. New York, you were looking at that. All throughout New England, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, he's performing better than he did in 2024. But I want to look. Remember the last couple of weeks of the campaign? Where's Nikki Haley? Why isn't she with him? Why is he demeaning the vice president, calling her stupid? Why is he beating up on Nancy Pelosi? Why is he so dark on immigration? Why isn't he trying to reach out to the middle, to the suburbs? Why he's going to repel people away? Well, guess what? If you come here, well, let me start here in Arizona. He's not winning. 60% of the population in Arizona lives in Maricopa County. She's leading in Maricopa County. Donald Trump is not overperforming in Maricopa County. But look where he is overperforming, in Republican areas. The big conversation has been, he got 2016, got more votes in 2020. A lot of Democrats saying there can't possibly be more Trump voters out there in rural America. Well, yeah, there are. He's over, smaller counties, Apache County here, only 6% in, too. So more votes coming in from here. And then you come over here, Navajo County, and down here in the southern part of the state, Yuma County, 64% of the vote. Again, you think, oh boy, but that's double. That's almost double when you look at the raw vote count there. So how does he do it, right? So that's Arizona. You come up to Nevada. Again, it's not in Clark County. That's Vegas and the suburbs around it. But in these other places, that's the end of the campaign when everyone was obsessed about why is he only talking to his base? Well, he was talking to those people, and they turned out, and he overperformed in a lot of Republican counties. Most of the places he overperformed dramatically. This is by 3%. You'll see suburbs where that'll be something we're talking about in the days and weeks after too, by 1 point or 1.5 points. This is 3% or more, right? So when you look at this, don't think about California yet. Let the votes be counted.
So these are all the counties where he overperformed by 3% or more.
Over his 2020 number by 3% or more. And right now we're over 1,000. Counties and townships, mostly up here in New England, but in other places too, they use the word townships, not counties. So I'm not trying to, if you live in a township, don't take my county. But there are 4,600 counties and townships, and in more than 1,000 of them, he has overperformed. But the thing is, they're mostly red. There are some blue, and the Democrats have to study that. But the idea of, we always say, are Republicans going to stand up to Donald Trump? Not looking at that, they're not, because he's increasing the vote that he already got. He's up over 2016, up over 2020, and now up over 2024. So you come in here and you look, and it includes Bucks County, very significant, close in there, and these other counties out here that Donald Trump likely wins anyway. So let's just bring this out now and come back to the real world.
Can I just make one more note about Bucks County? Can you bring us back to Bucks County? Yeah,
absolutely.
That was an area where Kamala Harris made a big play, even though it's a county that Donald Trump, that Joe Biden won. She made a big play there. She did an event with Liz Cheney there. She made a real pitch to the Haley voters you talked about. Let's check in with Pamela Brown at the voting desk, who has an update on the ballots left to be counted in Pennsylvania. Pamela?
All right, I'm getting some information for both Philadelphia and Bucks County, that Collier County right outside of Philadelphia, that right now Trump is slightly ahead. Let's talk about Philadelphia soon. We were just talking about the fact that 6,000 mail-in ballots came in there. I'm told by an official there in Philly that maximum left for mail-in ballots, the outstanding mail-in ballots, is 31,000. But this official says, look, there's going to be some issues with some of these. The signatures don't match up and so forth, and it's too late for them to be cured. So that's the max amount. Let's turn it over now to Bucks County. Again, this is a county that Biden won in 2020. It's typically a blue-leaning county just outside of Philly. I'm told by an official there are 56,000 mail-in ballots left to count out of 140,000 mail-in ballots cast there overall. And they're still waiting for 41 out of 304 precincts to report the results of in-person Election Day votes as well. I should note these counties across Pennsylvania, including Bucks, including Philadelphia, they're going to be continuously counting there until every mail-in ballot is counted. That's per the law there. Jake?
All right, Pamela, thanks so much. Appreciate it. I'm sorry to interrupt. Take me back to the places where Donald Trump is overperforming. Are there any places where Kamala Harris overperformed from where Biden did?
I'll show you that in just 1 second. I just want to put a button on what Pam was just talking about, in the sense that, so there's votes out there. Maybe Kamala Harris comes back, and that's close.
He's up by 11,000.
Yeah, so maybe she comes back, but again, you're talking about the margins, right? He's winning by 4. Right? If she comes back and beats him, it's going to be 50-50, 51 right there. Again, underperforming the president in places. So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
By 3% or more. At least in the county right now, and so you come in full county there. So there you see, but that's states, yeah. So in counties, in 58 counties, we just showed Donald Trump was over 1,000 counties of the 4,600 counties and townships across America. So if you do the full county level, there's where you see Harris at the moment. Again, there might be more out here in the West Coast, possible 1 or 2 more as they finish the count here. But in the states that matter, again, I just showed you all those Trump counties. In one county in battleground Pennsylvania, she's outperforming President Biden by 3% or more.
There were Biden stalwarts who argued that kicking him out of the nomination was a mistake. Now, I don't know that I buy that, because I don't know that the Joe Biden of 2024 is the Joe Biden of 2020. But what do you think?
I think that, so let's come out of this map to have this conversation, just to show where we are at the moment in this race. And let's turn this off here as well. After the debate, all of the energy collapsed. The debate you moderated with Dana, the Biden-Trump debate, the air came out of the Democratic balloon. Joe Biden was going to get blown out.
So you think it would have been worse because Minnesota and Virginia, New Mexico, Colorado, those would have been...
Would the Democrats have lost those in the end? I don't know the answer to that, but all of the Democrats would have broken with the president. It would have caused amazing dissidence in the Democratic Party. Donors were not going to give money. And again, I don't want to be disrespectful to the President of the United States, but have you seen anything? The Vice President of the United States looks like she's about to lose the presidential election. But all of the Democrats would have broken with the president. It would have caused amazing dissidence in the Democratic Party. Donors were not going to give money. And again, I don't want to be disrespectful to the President of the United States, but have you seen anything? The Vice President of the United States looks like she's about to lose the presidential election. She was campaigning vigorously from the second she got the nomination. Lose the presidential election. She was campaigning vigorously from the second she got the nomination up until the votes counting today. Is there any evidence on the table that the United States could do half of what she did?
No.
a third of what she did. I mean,
No.
we could go. I don't want to be mean.
agree.
I don't want to be mean to the president. Of the United
No,
States.
and we saw
But-
over the last week him calling Trump supporters.
And trying to explain that cost of living stuff, trying to explain that, yeah, it sucks in a lot of places, but look
Yeah.
around the world, the United States is actually doing better than most advanced
Absolutely.
economies. He was missing.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot said and and told about.
And trying to explain that cost of living stuff, trying to explain that, yeah, it sucks in a lot of places, but
Yeah.
look around the world, the United States is actually doing better than most advanced
Absolutely.
economies. He was missing.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot said and and told about that. Let's check in with Caitlin Collins, who's at Trump's headquarters, ahead of remarks that were expected by the former president. Caitlin.
Yeah, Jake, just to give you a reality check of where the Trump campaign has been watching this election day play out. They woke up confident this morning that ultimately their candidate was going to win, that Donald Trump would win this race. But when I was talking to them about what they thought the next few days were going to look like, one, they thought that this would go on for several days. They did not think that the numbers would be as generous as they are, as what the numbers have been coming in, as they have been reported. And they also had counseled Donald Trump that there would likely not be any kind of decision within the next 24 hours or so. Donald Trump himself was frustrated about that and was saying that he wanted to know what the outcome of this race was going to be tonight. And he said, Kristen, that he had not prepared a speech. And obviously, we are seeing now the Trump campaign in real time, as we've been talking to them, are adjusting to what they've been watching play out over the last 3 or 4 hours or so.
Yeah, and he's feeling really good. I talked to a number of people who were with him who said that he is ecstatic, that they had already said that they thought he was in a different headspace than when he went into 2020 when he was angry. He was watching those results come in. But as you said, he still couldn't understand why they weren't going to get the results tonight. Now, obviously, we're seeing a lot more of these states being called right now than even his own team anticipated. I was told that they were looking very carefully at Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and they thought that maybe they'd have some idea by tomorrow what those results would look like. But as we're seeing those results coming in, there's so much more of that vote counted in these states than they even anticipated. So clearly that shifted their entire mentality around this. Donald Trump coming here and getting ready to speak.
Well, and so Donald Trump is in the building right now. I should note, we're waiting to hear from him. He has made his way over from Mar-a-Lago, about a 10-minute drive away. And you just think of, I was there at Trump's victory party in 2016 when he first won, and the entire room was shell-shocked after he won Florida, that he had actually won that election. He himself was stunned by winning, and it was kind of this surreal moment to see Trump and his family on stage as he was speaking. Then, of course, we all know what happened 4 years ago when he came out and spoke and declared victory that was not his and never would become his, which belonged to Joe Biden. And so I think the question for a lot of people watching now is what he is going to say tonight as he's going to come out. And the race has obviously not been called yet. What he's going to say when he gets on stage after seeing the numbers that are better than even they were expecting this morning.
Yeah, and we know that their team had not spent a lot of time coming up with any drafts for him. They were going to let Donald Trump speak off the cuff, but they were trying to come up with scenarios in which Donald Trump would not come out early. The difference between now and 2020 is that their internal polling was showing them a lot of these kind of numbers. Maybe not exactly, obviously, as you said, they were even surprised by how generous some of the numbers were, but they did believe they had a real path towards winning, unlike in 2020 when that seemed a lot more uncertain, which meant that Donald Trump went into this in a very different way. So the speech that he gave, obviously, in 2020, declaring victory when he did not win the election. We'll see what he says tonight, because we know that, again, he was in a very different place. The election is in a very different place than when he came out then.
Also, the access of influence around him is so different. Like 4 years ago, Rudy Giuliani was in the White House, intoxicated, according to testimony from other aides who were there, urging Trump to go out and declare victory. He's now down the riser from us this evening. He was not at the Mar-a-Lago event. But Donald Trump was surrounded by Elon Musk, we know, was at Mar-a-Lago tonight. There were photos of him sitting with Donald Trump as he was preparing to come over here. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is there as well. Dana White, Tucker Carlson. There are Donald Trump Jr., obviously Senator J.D. Vance, and those who are now,